Hello, Suzanne from Suzanne Scarrow Live here. In the last few weeks, I've been talking a lot about emotional blocks. And somebody asked the very pertinent question yesterday, how do I clear those emotional blocks? So that's my message for today. I just want to talk about this process called emotional freedom techniques. You might have heard it called EFT, or you might know it as tapping. But it's a process of tapping on the energy meridians of your body. It hasn't been around in therapy fields for a very long time. It was created by Gary Craig in 1995, so that's how new it is. I didn't hear about it until the early 2000s, and I began to use it with clients straight away because it's so effective. Up until that time, I'd been able to get clients to a place where they understood why they felt the way they felt, but they still felt it. And that wasn't a good enough result for me. I wanted to get them to a place where they could clear that emotional hurt and pain and sadness and grief and trauma and whatever else it was. And that's what emotional freedom techniques does. So I'll talk about it in this post and a few others because it's not easy to explain in just a few minutes. But essentially, it's a process where you find the event that caused the feeling in the first place. And if you can find the original event where you first felt this, that's the most appropriate one to go for. But if you can't, that's okay too. Then you get a specific piece of that event. So if you can, take a 30-second frame out of the event, as though the event were a movie, and you're taking a 30-second frame out of it where you feel the worst in that movie. And then you give that 30-second frame a name. And it's important to say it in the most negative way you can, because that's actually the way you've been experiencing and feeling it in your body. When you've got the negative name, and it might be a feeling word or it might be a horror movie or something like that, doesn't matter what the words are. You just need a short phrase that you can say over and over. And then you get a score on how intense it feels. And often when it's a big issue for you, it can be a 10 out of 10. Maybe a 7, 8, 9 out of 10. And you just keep that score. You might want to write it down. And then you start to say these words by tapping on this part of your hand, this fleshy part of your hand between the wrist and the base of your little finger. Tap there and say, even though I have this, and whatever your words are, I'll just use the word thing, but you insert your words. Even though I have this thing, I accept myself anyway. Even though I have this thing, I accept myself anyway. Even though I have this thing, I accept myself anyway. We can change those words around, but the important words are, even though I have this problem, whatever the problem is, and some statement of acceptance of yourself. And sometimes you can say, I accept myself, and sometimes you can't, but you're working towards that, obviously. What we want you to do is get to a place where you can accept and love and forgive yourself. But sometimes it's hard to say those things. So wherever you start is okay. Then tap on the crown right here at the top of your head, 4 fingers tapping there, and just say whatever your words are. This thing. Right here where the hair starts to grow on the eyebrow, this thing. Outside corner of the eye, this thing. And you're tapping about 7 to 10 times on each point. Then under the eye, this thing. Under the nose, this thing. Under the lip, this thing. On the collarbone, this thing. That collarbone is either side of where you would knot a tie. They've got that knobbly bone. You might come down 1/2 inch and across 1/2 inch, and you're tapping there. And underarm now, so you might not be able to see this, but this is about 4 inches down from the armpit. For ladies, it's usually about halfway down your bra strap. For guys, it's level with your nipple, directly under your armpit. Now on the wrist, not everyone uses this point, but I like to use this one too. And that's on the wrist, on the inside of the wrist, this thing. Back on the karate chop, this thing. And on the crown, this thing. Now there are other points that you might see people use, and that's all good. There are energy meridians all over your body. So once you've done that tapping 1 round or 2 rounds even of that tapping, take a big breath and have another look at your 30-second frame and see how it feels. So what we expect to happen is that it's going to come down in intensity from maybe whatever it was, a 10 or an 8 out of 10, down to maybe, if it was a 10, it might come down to 7, and then next round it might come down to 5 and 3 and 1 and 0. And obviously the aim is to get it to 0. You don't want to carry any leftover pieces of this, and you can get it to 0, so why not? But it might happen in one sitting, it might happen over a period of time. Be persistent with it. So whatever it is, you can get it clear. Now, sometimes you're going to be able to get it clear on your own, and sometimes you're going to need some guidance from a skilled practitioner. So don't feel as though you have to do it all on your own. You can actually seek out help. There are practitioners all around the world now, many of them who work like I do online, and you can clear those emotional blockages. Even traumas can be cleared. So, there is nothing that this won't work on. There's nothing that this won't give relief for. So make sure that you give it a shot, because it's really worth a try, I promise you. I'll talk some more about it in the future lives that I do right here. If you want to know more, I'll leave a link underneath this video, which will give you the connection to my free group. And in that free group, there's lots of support and some tapping challenges as well. So take care, have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon.